You may have heard the news that Knoxville was #1 in home value increase since 2019. Well, what about the rest of East Tennessee? In this video, we're going to talk about surrounding counties in East Tennessee beyond Knoxville. What happened with their values? Did home prices increase just as much as what we saw in the Knoxville area? Let's dive in and get going. Hey, what's up? It's me, Haley Jones, your local Knoxville and East Tennessee real estate agent. In full disclosure, I make these videos because I want to work with you to buy and sell a property, a home, a piece of land, etc. So that being said, call me if you need an agent. In this video, we're going to talk about home prices. Now, depending on how you feel, this might make you really mad and, or it could make you happy, depending on your current home situation, etc. So Realtor.com in late November released an article saying that Knoxville was by far #1 in the biggest home value boom price-wise since 2019. So that being said, I made 2 videos about that. I talked about the differences of like 2019 versus 2025 in the market, but then I also did a video about the specific types of homes that saw the biggest growth, etc. So in this video, this is kind of a compilation of both. We're talking about what happened outside of Knoxville, but that's part of the Knox metro area. So that's places like Blount County, which think Maryville, Loudoun County, think Lenoir City, Anderson County, think Oak Ridge, Seymour, think Blount County and Sevier County. Pigeon Forge, Gatlinburg, think Sevier County. Jefferson City, Jefferson County. Dandridge, Jefferson County. So we're talking about all the things and places surrounding Knoxville. What happened with their home prices from 2019 to 2025? So, if you are a buyer, why do you care about this video? Well, if you're a buyer, this is going to let you know, like, hey, where might be some, like, where am I going to get less appreciation, like where were prices not so high over that time period. This is also going to tell you like who was on market or on the similar level of what happened with Knoxville. And then on the sell side too, this does kind of inform where you might consider listing if you're just looking strictly at what happened with the market. We're going to talk about specific types of homes who saw a bigger boom in the area. And then we're going to talk about specific counties, like who more than doubled, who had much higher growth than even what Knoxville and Knox County had. So, just kind of inform you as a consumer, you as a buyer, as a seller of what's happening in the Knoxville and East Tennessee housing market and what prices are actually realistic. I think a lot of times people think like, oh, East Tennessee is cheap. I've had a number of clients who were going to buy 2 years ago and didn't, and now where they were going to buy, they're priced out of. And that's because of #1 rates and also because of price increases. So, I would say that Knoxville and East Tennessee are probably not going, there's not going to be a bubble bursting because of other issues like inventory, etc. We do have continuous relocators here, people moving in, but we also have the University of Tennessee. That's not going anywhere. We have the Smoky Mountains. That's not going anywhere. So we have some things in the community where, we are kind of insulated if you compare us to somewhere like places where right now you're seeing a big bubble burst in terms of pricing. So anyways, that being said, we're first going to talk about sold prices overall outside of Knox County. We're going to talk about days on market, how long is stuff taking to sell now in late 2025 versus what was happening in 2019. We're going to talk about overall sales. Are sales down? Are they up? And what does that look like by home type? And then finally, we're going to get into county-specific data. So how does Blount County home prices in 2019 to 2025, what does that increase look like compared to Knox County? What counties more than doubled in their price growth and far exceeded the price growth that even Knoxville saw? There are, look at all these in yellow. Those are all doubled, which is literally insane. And then finally, we're going to talk about what areas are selling faster when it comes to counties. What counties are we seeing are selling, 2 weeks faster than they were back in 2019? And is anybody selling more slowly comparatively. So it's time. Let's get going. Okay, first of all, what do prices across East Tennessee look like excluding Knox County? So in this, we're talking not about Knox County. If you want to know about Knoxville, know about Knox County, go check those videos out. So overall change in average sold price. So 2019, your average sold price, $223,552. Average sold price for counties surrounding East Tennessee. Your average sold price in 2025, $425,139,000. So almost 2 times. It's 90% increase. So it almost doubled, which is actually more than what we saw in Knox County. Knox County, we saw an 86% price increase. So East Tennessee surrounding areas saw the same similar boom in pricing, the same similar growth. Now, if we look at this and partition it based on types of homes, 2-story plus basement was a segment of the market for Knox County that exploded in terms of pricing. And same thing here in East Tennessee, 2-story plus basement saw a 95% price increase between 2019 to 2025. So, 2-story plus basement continues to be a strong, desirable home that people want. And we saw that based on the pricing increasing almost double around East Tennessee. Interestingly, new construction, that had the lowest price growth at 54%. So average price in 2019 was $272,828 for your new construction, and that was actually higher than the average 2019 price. But in 2025, your average sold price for new construction was $419,819. And that was 54% increase. So it's interesting because you would think like, oh, well, new construction would be almost double, blah, blah, blah. But that's not actually what happened. So interesting, right? And then any other areas, any other home types? We also saw that a ranch home had a 91% increase. And then also 1.5 stories. So this would be where you might have like mostly a ranch with a loft. Maybe you have a little room over the garage. 1.5 stories saw a 94% home price increase. So, that's interesting. We also saw we saw similar things in Knox County. But across East Tennessee, for sure, 2-story plus basement, 95% price increase. And 90% overall. So interesting. Okay, what about days on market? So are there areas or are there segments of homes that are now selling more quickly or selling more slow compared to 2019 versus what happened in 2025? Now, as a side note, this data is from January 1 to October 31st, 2019 versus January 1 to October 31st, 2025. And I did that because that's the same timeline I pulled for Knox County. So if you're comparing these two, you've got the same timelines. So anyways, days on market, 2019 versus 2025. Overall, days on market in East Tennessee are down 2 days in 2025 compared to 2019, which 2 days to me isn't very much. 66 versus 64. Still, that's almost 2 months on market or over 2 months on market in both scenarios. But listen to this. 2-story plus basement and high rises are all down at least 2 weeks. So 2-story homes are down 19 days on market. 2-story plus basement down 33 days on market. So they're down a whole month. They're selling more quickly. They're selling more quickly by a month in 2025 than compared to 2019. And then high rises down 21 days. Interestingly, not that that's a huge part of the market segment at high rise, but it is interesting that in both cases in Knox County, those are moving more quickly than they were back in 2019. And I think that has to do with, people moving here, the demand for that. Also, high rises typically would, for the most part, you would think might be something more affordable, or would be to a specific type of buyer. So anyhow, that being said, where did we see where things are sitting longer? Outside of Knoxville, townhouses are up are on the market 3 weeks longer in 2025 versus 2019. So from 48 days to 72 days, 24 days longer. So that's interesting. But overall, it's about the same. We're down slightly 2 days, days on market. So there are just some segments that are kind of really skewing these numbers, because you see like for example, basement ranch is just down a day, 1.5 stories down 6 days. So new construction selling more quickly, even though the prices weren't as escalating, selling 10 days faster, 2019 versus 2025. So in 2025, it's faster than in 2019. So anyways, interesting to think about that. But we do see that a lot of segments are selling more quickly in 2025 if we compare to 2019. All right, what about overall sales? So overall sales for counties surrounding Knox, not including Knox, were up 5%. And that, that's not huge, not minor. 5% is somewhat significant, but it's not like, oh my God, they were up 30%. Like, that would be insane. But interestingly, within each segment, you do see where a larger percentage of 2-story homes sold in 2025 versus 2019. A larger percentage of townhomes sold in 2025 versus 2019. We saw a big drop in high rises. When I say high rise sales, you're talking about 38 in 2019 versus 17 in 2025. So down 45%, but that's still a minor segment of the overall home sales. 0.2%. It's not even really, it's not even really worth necessarily mentioning. New construction, interestingly though, here's the big change. Up 37%. So that's a change from overall total sales of new construction homes in 2019 versus 2025. In 2019, there were 852 new construction sales. In 2025, there was 37%, or there was 1,171, which is a 37% increase in the amount of those properties, that property type. But then if we say, what percentage is that 1,171 of the overall sales in 2025? That's up as well. So you can see in 2019, new construction was just over, or was almost 9%, versus we see about a 2% increase, or just over 2% to about 2.5% increase in new construction, which we don't necessarily see in the rest of the segment. So that's kind of an interesting thing. Another thing that was interesting that was slightly down is your basement ranch. Percentage of sales was slightly down, even though they were, they were down quite a bit, comparatively sale to sale, down 18%. But you can see, obviously this is a 5% increase. So in general, none of these segments really necessarily pop out, other than this thing about new construction. We do see that there was a significant increase in terms of the amount of new construction homes that sold, even just outside of Knoxville, outside of Knox County. But overall, 5% increase in sales 2019 versus 2025. 5% more in 2025. All right, so what about if we look at counties specifically? So if you're like, Haley, what counties more than doubled? Which probably that's not what you're asking. You're asking who didn't double? Where am I going to get the best bang for my buck? Well, look at this. See all the ones in yellow that have a star? Those all doubled. Okay, so those are Sevier County. Price increase 2019 versus 2025, or price growth, I should say, 122%. 122%. Okay. Morgan County, 108% growth. Fentress County, that's Grimsley, that's going towards Nashville, 100% increase. Scott County, 129% increase. Hello? Union County, Manorville, Sharp Chapel, etc., 106% increase. Granger County, that's Rutledge, Bean Station, that's the north side of Cherokee Lake, 100% increase. And then 2 honorable mentions, Anderson County, that would be Oak Ridge, Clinton, Norris, Oliver Springs areas, 95% increase. That's far more than what we saw in Knox County. Knox County saw 86% home price increase, home value increase, where Anderson County, 95%. And then another honorable mention is Hamlin County with a 94% price increase. So, I mean, significant price increases. Now, interestingly, a lot of times like Knox, Blunt, Loudoun kind of all get grouped together. Blunt, think Maryville. That's also Friendsville, Louisville. Loudoun, think Lenore City. Loudoun, literally, think Tellico. That's all Loudoun. So Knox, Blunt, Loudoun, I feel like kind of all get grouped together. And all of them had home price growth in the 80s. Knox County was 85% home value increase 2019 to 2025. Blunt County was 83%, and Loudoun County was also 83%. So those are significant increases. But what I'm saying is we had some that were more than double, and those are the Sevier, the Morgan, all those that I went over. And I want to just briefly also mention that I pulled this data from the East Tennessee Realtors MLS. So some of the data is specific to like Sevier and Cobb counties are technically part of the Great Smoky Mountains MLS. That is actually their home MLS. And then Hamlin, Granger, Jefferson, those are all Lakeway area MLS. So these numbers are from the East Tennessee Realtors MLS. So agents that listed a home, for example, in Granger County are probably a part of the Lakeway MLS, but also list in the East Tennessee Realtors MLS. So I am just saying that with these data points, just kind of proceed with caution because I pulled from the East Tennessee Realtors data, not the home MLS, just for the sake of like consistent searching, because the other ones have a different like database. They have different ways that data is entered. So for the sake of clarity, I just pulled from the East Tennessee Realtors MLS. So I do want to acknowledge that those are actually part of another MLS, but we do, like, I'm a member of all those MLSs, of Gizmar, of ETR, of LAR, but my primary one is East Tennessee Realtors. So anyways, just a side note. So if you're like, well, why did you pull the rest of these counties? Because Blunt, Anderson, Loudoun, Roane, Morgan, Cumberland, Fentress, Scott, Campbell, Union, and Monroe are all part of the East Tennessee Realtors MLS. So that's why we're talking about these counties. If you're like, why are you talking about these counties, Haley? Anyways, long story short, the takeaway here is that if we look across all these counties that surround Knox, 96% home value increase 2019 versus 2025. So if you see that someone bought a house in 2019 and they listed it 2025 or even early 2026 and that price is double and it's somewhere in East Tennessee, that's probably about right. Now, it depends on what the house is, right? It depends on where the house is. It depends on, there's all kinds of factors. But, if you compare prices to 2019 to now, at the time of this video, it is December 2025. You're probably seeing this in early 2026. Like, prices have doubled. It is what it is. And in a lot of these counties, they have more than doubled. Now, I will say this. If you look at Jefferson County and Roane County, they both had home price growth in the 70%. So Jefferson, 72% increase in prices. Roane, 74%. And those were the least, which is still significant. That's still a lot. So if you're like, well, which area in East Tennessee am I going to not be paying for appreciation? It's going to be Jefferson or Roane counties as of right now. So that would be Jefferson City, Dandridge, and Newmarket, for example, or Roane County, that's Kingston, Harriman. So that's just kind of north, Rockwood, that would be just like north of Loudoun. If you're familiar with I-40, you can go towards Nashville or you can go towards Atlanta. When you split off and you go west towards Nashville, all of that right there, that's all Roane County. Partly Oak Ridge as well, even though Oak Ridge is primarily Anderson, but that's a side note. That's unnecessary information. So anyways, that being said, I just show this to you because it's not just Knoxville. It is all of East Tennessee. And we, especially for people that are relocating to the area, if you fall in that category, yes, prices are up. Now, is it still cheaper than a lot of places? Yes. Do we still have cheaper taxes and cheaper electricity, things like that? Yes, we do. But I also just want to say, hey, this price appreciation thing is actually real. And it's not just Knox County. It is across all of East Tennessee. And then if you're like, well, then it's dangerous for me to buy here because there's going to be a bubble. I've already talked about that earlier. There's not going to be a bubble. I mean, I'm not 100% sure. I'm 99.99999% sure there's not going to be a bubble because now could we see prices come down? Maybe. Like, obviously, all this is dependent on what happens with rates and etc. But we were so low in inventory in 2019 to begin with. Then COVID happened. Our inventory bottomed out. And we've just now kind of recovered from that across all of East Tennessee. So that's why I say, like, we're not necessarily worried about a bubble, but I want you to know that, like, yeah, prices are up. And if you're a seller, like right now at the time of this video, the market is very weird. It is very finicky. So you want to be very strategic about how you're pricing your home, but also know that, like, the value is up. And so you may be concerned about, like, you may be concerned about a bubble bursting or, like, am I going to lose my equity? Like, no, we're good. East Tennessee is pretty well insulated from a lot of the, like, other craziness going on in other real estate markets. So anyways, of all those, Scott County, of all places, saw the biggest price increase, 129%. That is literally insane, right? Crazy. I double checked these numbers because I was like, can this be right? Like, I had to go back, I redid them all and rechecked them all. So, because I was like, this seems aggressive, but it's true. It's true. Okay, finally, what areas were selling faster in 2025 compared to 2019? So, these areas, all in yellow, are all at least 2 weeks faster to sell. So that would be Cobb County, that would be Jefferson County, Morgan County is down 22 days, Campbell County is down 20 days, Union County down 26, and Monroe County down 21. So this is, again, just showing you, like, it's not just Knoxville, it's East Tennessee. I also want to point out, for those of you that are interested about Blount, Anderson, and Loudoun, again, those are kind of, like, directly connected to Knox County. Blount, Anderson, and Loudoun, Blount County is just up a day in 2025 versus 2019. Anderson County is down a day. That to me is basically the same. And then Jefferson also is touching Knox County. Interestingly, Jefferson is down 2 weeks, but also saw the least price growth at 72%, which I think is interesting. So if you're like, where can I get a steal of a deal in Knox County? Where saw the least price growth as a buyer? Jefferson County. Now, if you're like, where would I want to invest to? Where is, like, on the up and up? Based on the 2019 to 2025 home price increase, 72% increase is still pretty great, okay? That being said, it's not the strongest in price growth in the East Tennessee area. So just something to think about, to be informed about. I also want to caution you about Sevier County. Now, Sevier County, in general, over this time period, 2019 to 2025, showed 122% price increase. However, as a caution about Sevier County has multiple markets. You have people that live in Sevier County full-time. You have a lake market, Douglas Lake, and you have the short-term rental investor market, tourist market. So all of that is going on in Sevier County. So if you're thinking about Sevier County, whether to live full-time, whether to buy a lake home, whether to buy an investment property, which lake, short-term rental, they could both fall in those things, or maybe you want a cabin in the woods or whatever as an investment property, you want to be very strategic and specific about where and what you're buying. Because yes, prices are up, but their inventory is much higher in certain segments. So just please know that. Not really a part of this video, but I just want to mention that because, yeah, it looks like, oh, 122% price increase. That's great if I'm thinking about buying there. But also know that their days on market 2019 versus 2025 as a whole, as data pulled from the East Tennessee MLS, is up 13 days. And when I say 13, 64 to 77 versus if you look at like Knox County, what are their days on market? Knox County days on market, hold on. I should have had this data pulled up. Please hold 1 second. Well, where's my little, oh, here. I did have it pulled up. I just didn't realize it. Okay, so listen to this. Knox County. Average days on market in 2019, 43. 2025, 41. Sevier County, 2019, 64 days. 2025, 77 days. So we already Sevier County was on market on average 20 days longer back in 2019. Now, over a month, over 34 days longer comparatively. So I just want to caution you, if you're entering into that market, like, do your due diligence. So anyways, all that being said, what are our takeaways here? Our takeaway here is that it's not just Knoxville and Knox County that saw massive price and massive home value increase from 2019 to 2025. It's pretty much all of the East Tennessee area, including Blount, including Anderson, including Loudoun. We saw some that more than doubled, which is insane. And then we also saw home segments, for example, in both cases, whether it's Knox County or all of East Tennessee, where prices nearly doubled based on home segment. So for example, 2-story plus basement, we saw a lot of strength there. We also saw increases in new construction across the board when it comes to price and home sales. So that being said, certainly East Tennessee showed like, hey, this is the place people want to be, which is where we saw price increase. We also had low inventory in Knox County, and the East Tennessee area have historically underbuilt, which that also contributed to our inventory issue that we saw going into COVID. So there's a lot of factors going on here, but really more so, I just want you to know it's not just Knoxville, it's actually all of East Tennessee that is still a strong real estate market, and will likely continue to be so. So, you know, we're not going to see probably the crazy appreciation that we saw over 2019 to 2025, going into 2026, 27, etc. However, this is really just more of like, hey, yeah, the home values here have gone up. And if you're a home owner, that's a great thing. If you're going to buy, that's something you just want to be aware of. And if you're selling, you know, you can look at what's happened across the market, what's happened in your segment of home, who's buying your house, like what's the best price strategy. Because yes, we did see home values massively increase. You just want to also be very careful and strategic about how you price your specific home based on how it fits within the market, where it is, etc. So anyways, as always, I hope this has been helpful. This is one of my data deep dives, as I call it. So some of you, if you made it this far, I'm glad you made it here. And if you need help buying or selling land or a home, I would love to help you. So you can always give me a call, because that's why I make these videos, so I can find people like you that want to work with people like me. So anyways, click subscribe. I've got so much more to share with you. I'm Haley Jones, and I'll see you on the next video.